Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to the Milsimmer's Guide. In our last video, we discussed how you and some friends can become a cohesive whole using fireteam formations and movement techniques. However, a fireteam is ultimately just one piece on the battlefield and not self-sufficient. For a unit that has the manpower and resources to execute combat missions independently, we need the rifle squad. Yes, you can theoretically conduct missions with any size force, but realistically, it's rare for militaries to use anything smaller than a squad, and even then we'll reinforce them with attached elements. Why is this the case, and what factors feed into squad organization? There are dozens of possible squad configurations, not to mention that doctrinal organizations are often modified to fit the demands of combat. However, all of the variations you might encounter ultimately follow a deeper set of recurrent metrics. So today, instead of simply rehashing the paper organizations found in field manuals, we'll be covering what those metrics are and how they combine in various ways to create different squad organizations. By the end of this video, you'll not only know how some countries organize their squads, but you'll understand why they are organized the way they are and the strengths and weaknesses of each type. If there can be said to be a standard squad organization, it's probably the US Army's Doctrinal Rifle Squad. It consists of 9 soldiers divided into 2 fireteams of 4 led by a dedicated squad leader. It's easy to assume that doctrinal organizations like this will be what you always use on the battlefield, but the reality is that there are a lot of factors that may mean you cannot always have this ideal organization, or even that it may not be the best one for your needs. Take for example mounted operations. Across different missions you may need to use a variety of vehicles with varying carrying capacities, necessitating ad hoc unit sizes to fit everybody. Other times you may not require vehicles but need to augment your squad with attachments like an MG team, or you may even need to detach parts of your squad to a different unit. Depending on the MET-TC, which is military speak for the situation, you may not want to stick with the standard organization in all scenarios, preferring instead to task organize for the specific mission at hand. And that's not to mention that the nature of things is that you often can't have the ideal organization. No unit is ever at 100% manning capacity, whether a milsim or a real-world unit. And even with a full-strength squad, you're bound to take casualties in combat, meaning your combat strength could change from moment to moment. So squads will frequently be undermanned, requiring adaptation of the baseline TONE. If you grow too reliant on fighting with a specific number of troops with a set organization and equipment loadout, you risk losing the ability to adapt to the constant changing realities of the battlefield. Understanding the more esoteric principles allows you to remain organized and combat effective no matter the situation or your available resources. Regarding doctrinal size, a rifle squad can consist of anywhere from 6 to 13 men. However, how this manpower is organized and equipped is what determines the squad's full capabilities. There are 5 different metrics that can be adjusted to create a particular organization with different strengths and weaknesses. Let's start by exploring the various weapon systems that a squad may be equipped with. A rifle squad can be equipped with numerous weapon systems, including fragmentation grenades and disposable AT launchers. However, a squad can be described as being equipped with 3 primary categories of weapons: rifles, machine guns, and grenade launchers. Most troops in the squad will carry some form of select fire, magazine-fed, gas-operated, shoulder-fired firearm, which may be called the assault rifle, carbine, or battle rifle, but we'll just call the rifle. The rifle is usually chambered in a small caliber, high velocity intermediate cartridge like 5.56 NATO or Russian 5.45. It's capable of fully automatic fire, but is almost always used in semi-automatic mode to maximize accuracy, and because riflemen only carry a limited amount of ammunition. Sometimes a specialized rifleman may be given an enhanced optic, bipod, or a more powerful rifle to act as a designated marksman. In this role, he focuses on engaging targets with enhanced precision, often at a greater range, but is still a type of rifleman in the squad and not a sniper. Though most of a squad's close combat strength will be comprised of riflemen, its center of firepower is the machine gun. These are typically belt-fed, but there is a large variety in the type of weapon that provides automatic firepower. The standard for a long time was the belt-fed light machine gun chambered in an intermediate cartridge, by which I mean the FN Minimi. However, also common are heavier medium machine guns like the FN Mag, which are chambered in full-sized rifle cartridges and served by a crew of 2 to 3 men. As far as application in video games goes, it's rare to see actual crew-served mechanics, so every medium machine gun is in effect a single-manned weapon. A standout exception to this, however, is Arma 3, which with mods allow for belt linking by the assistant gunner. Another option for squad level automatic firepower is automatic rifles, which are usually beefed up versions of the standard rifle, such as the M27 or RPK, but could be a unique design like the Ultimax 100. Sometimes automatic rifles overlap with DMRs, as the M27 does in the M38 configuration. The key differentiator for automatic rifles is in how they are used. For example, an automatic rifleman equipped with the same M27 as his squad mates might carry 2 or 3 times the standard ammo load and prioritize firing his weapon on full automatic with a bipod. The last major category of weapons is grenade launchers. The NATO standard in this category is the 40x46mm low pressure round, often fired from underbarrel launchers like the M203. However, standalone systems like the M320 are increasingly popular. They're used to launch high explosives beyond the range that you can hand throw grenades and are ideal to engage point targets behind cover or area targets in the open. Some countries do use heavier high explosive launchers at the squad level. These can be direct fire, like the Russians do with the RPG-7 or the USMC does with the M3E1 Maz, but they can also be indirect fire, like the French have with the 51mm LGI F1 knee mortar. The power of small unit organization is that you can create combinations of these various weapons into fire teams to create a combined arms effect inside one cohesive unit. A squad in turn consists of multiple fire teams operating in mutual support under the central authority of a squad leader. Squads are divided into fire teams instead of operating as a singular whole because of a concept called span of control. If a squad leader had to manage every key weapon system and individual in his unit himself, it would rapidly become too much to handle. The squad leader has limited bandwidth to control his squad while also coordinating and communicating with higher HQ and adjacent units. Generally speaking, most people can only manage between 2 to 5 elements before they exceed their span of control. As a result, taking the 8 subordinates in a 9-man squad and grouping them into 2 fire teams of 4 enables the squad leader to be much more effective than if he had to manage all 8 members individually. Similar principles go into the size of each fire team. Each fire team should be large enough to pack a punch and be able to sustain some casualties before it becomes combat ineffective. However, each team can't be so large that it exceeds the team leader's span of control. So the standard happy medium that most Western militaries have settled on is the 4-man fire team, though 3-man teams aren't uncommon and 5-man teams remain manageable. Once you hit sizes of 6 to 7, however, you've reached the realm where you're more of a small squad and should consider subdividing into smaller teams. The primary distinction among various squad organization methods is the number of fire teams each squad has. By far the most common way to set up a squad is by dividing it into 2 fire teams, as the US Army does. This allows the squad to have various tactical options like bounding, flanking, or having a guard element, while remaining easy to control. And this is the OG method that was developed during World War I to enable the squad to conduct self-contained fire and movement. Generally speaking, no matter the squad's organization, the tactical application will follow this general formula of one element acting as a base of fire to shoot and suppress, and another as an assault group to close with and destroy the enemy. All of the variations you'll see in squad organization are simply different paths to this one tactical formula with differing trade-offs in simplicity, tactical flexibility, and junior leader requirements. An alternate to the 2 fire team structure is to have 3 fire teams, as the USMC does. The 3rd fire team gives the squad more flexibility. It can be used as a reserve or security element to bolster the firing or assault element, or even to provide the assault element with an intermediate base of fire. The drawback is that the 3rd fire team adds complexity, making the squad more difficult to control. The 3 fire team structure can also be cumbersome in urban environments and requires more personnel to fully man. The final option for dividing up the squad that might seem silly and contradictory to everything we've talked about so far is to not divide it up at all. You can choose to keep the squad together as a monolithic whole. This greatly simplifies things, but obviously has its drawbacks. Not only is there a greater burden on the one leader to control every individual, but it also limits the squad's tactical flexibility as it's unable to subdivide for different tasks. Therefore, having a monolithic squad is not ideal, but it becomes necessary when you lack the junior leaders needed to take charge of fire teams. Leaders don't just come out of thin air, requiring a lot of time and energy to develop, and they're one of the most precious resources in an infantry unit, whether milsim or real life. When we talk about organizing units for combat, people often fixate on how to optimize the table of organization and equipment, but the true source of effective organization lies in how many junior leaders you have available to lead small units in the accomplishment of specific tasks. The second metric of squad organization is how the capabilities of the different fire teams are balanced, and this impacts simplicity of employment versus tactical flexibility. For example, if your squad consists of 2 fire teams, it could have a symmetrical organization where each team has an identical size and loadout, as is the case in most modern Western militaries. This allows for each fire team to have a degree of flexibility, able to act as the base of fire or the assault element, or swap between the two according to the situation. Alternatively, a squad could have an asymmetric organization, as was typical during World War II, meaning that each fire team is optimized for a specific role it's supposed to play. Most asymmetric organizations will have some form of assault team consisting primarily of riflemen, and a support team organized around a machine gun, and maybe include a marksman or some flavor of HE launcher. This enables the fire teams to excel at their particular jobs, but at the cost of overall flexibility. That said, an asymmetric organization can be ideal when you have a lot of information about the situation that you're getting into, and you're able to tailor each team to the task it needs to accomplish. Examples of doctrinal asymmetric organizations include the French Army's rifle group, which for a while had a 600-meter trinome armed with longer range weapons, and a 300-meter trinome armed with shorter range weapons. The New Zealand rifle section has 2 5-man teams, one of which includes a marksman equipped with an LMT-308 MWS chambered in 7.62, and the other a machine gunner armed with an FN Maximi chambered in 7.62. This baseline organization can be modified to a breach and clear configuration consisting of a 4-man Overwatch team and a 6-man clearance team. The third metric of squad organization is where the squad leader is assigned. He may be independent or integrated into a fire team. Having an independent squad leader is the method used by the US military, where each fire team has a dedicated fire team leader, and the squad leader is a dedicated squad leader who floats between the 2 teams. This enables him to move back and forth as needed, and also means that he can better focus on the big picture and control any attached elements. The disadvantage is that more junior leaders are needed to fill in the fireteam leader roles. Also, the squad leader could run the risk of becoming isolated, and communication between the fireteams may not be as direct, having to go through an extra layer. Alternatively, the squad leader can be integrated and dual-hatted as a fireteam leader. The advantages of this are that the squad leader has closer, more direct control over his men, and you don't need as many junior leaders to lead the fire teams and for the squad to function as intended. These may seem like minor advantages, but infantry small unit tactics is a world where personal leadership counts for a lot, so don't sleep on how powerful these strengths can be. The disadvantage is that the squad leader is tied to one team, which can restrict their physical location. Also, requiring the squad leader to manage a fire team in addition to the squad as a whole makes it more difficult for him to oversee the big picture and control any additional attached elements. Examples of doctrinal organizations with integrated squad leaders are the Canadian Rifle Section, which has 2 groups of 5, and the Finnish Rifle Squad, which has 3 teams of 3. The last metric of squad organization is how medium machine guns, proper full-size ones, not light machine guns, are laid out through the formation. This is very important because even if a squad appears like it doesn't have a medium machine gun on paper, there are usually ways they can still have access to them via attachments from the platoon or company. The United States Army has 1 weapon squad in each rifle platoon containing the M240 medium machine guns. Single guns from this unit are often attached to the rifle squads to augment their capabilities for specific missions. And when the machine gun team is attached to the squad, it is usually operated as an independent element from the regular fire teams. This allows for greater tactical flexibility and direct control by the squad leader of this key weapon system. Some squad organizations have the medium machine guns already integrated into each squad as an organic asset. For example, the British Army Rifle Section has an L7A2 GPMG available for use by one of the fire teams. The US Mechanized Infantry Platoon has M240s available to the rifle squads due to their lack of a weapons squad. The Russians typically have a PKM per squad or group. In this type of organization, the medium machine guns will be used by one of the already existing fire teams, resulting in an asymmetric squad organization, or the squad might operate as a monolithic group focusing on machine gun employment to support other units. Alright, so that was the Milsimer's Guide to the Principles of Squad Organization. Again, no matter what your doctrine is, it's important to understand and make use of these deeper organizational principles to remain organized and combat effective, no matter what the status of your manpower and equipment is, or the situation on the battlefield. I hope those of you who watched this found it handy to use in-game with your friends, or that it was at least an entertaining watch. If so, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.